I'm with Faisal. Faisal, how are you today?
Good. How are you?
I'm well. I'm excited about our call because I feel like I've been stalking you on Twitter at least for quite some time, and I've been aware of some of the thought leadership that you've brought along, and so have been and so kind of excited to actually connect for the first time.
I'm happy to be here. Really happy to be here.
Awesome. And you were just sharing with me, right, that you have a podcast that's been going on for 5 years called Around the Coin.
Yeah, aroundthecoin.com. And it was something we started off from one of those conversations of Cora. Hey, you write so much. Why don't you payment guys take a podcast up? And so me, Brian Rommel, and Mike Townsend, we decided to do a podcast. And 5 years later, here we are.
Amazing. I'm 3 months into this podcasting journey.
You will
So
love it. You will love the journey. You will love the journey, I tell you. And the fact that you meet so many people of so many different cultures, religion, taste, background, education, hustles. It's just fantastic.
yeah.
I'm always in awe.
I used to do events, as you may or may not know. I was a big events guy. Every 3 months, no matter where I was in the world, there'd be some massive event in some big hotel. And that was a lot of fun. But when I asked myself at the end of that whole journey, is like, what did I really enjoy? And it was just like the ability to connect with another person and then share that experience with others. And I was like, I don't need to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to feed people in like hotels and this. I can just do this for in my
And even
basement.
over there, Sunny, the thing is, your interaction is limited to a few hundred people at best, right? Over here, the broadcast medium is very nice. It's a storytelling medium. This is what humans love. We love storytelling. We love talking to each other, telling my story, listening to your story. And the fact that you can propagate this out to as many people and there's no calendar attached to it, you can watch it 6 years from now or 12 years from now, is really powerful.
It is. I was a big Joe Rogan guy, and now that
Oh, yeah.
he's left YouTube, so I stopped watching him a bit. But he set the tone. Okay, so in terms of setting the tone, you cringed a bit, but just as like a level set, one of my first digital gold. That's what I think a lot of people are here for, right? The Bitcoin stories, the digital gold. But one of the secondary kind of, I think, exciting elements of Bitcoin has always been, can it or will it disrupt remittance? And I just recall many years ago, maybe I'm mistaken, but I remember reading some of your tweets. I think you read some blogs about this topic as well. And so really since then, I've been just following your work on Twitter. And like I said, it's a little bit open-ended, but on my podcast, I say Bitcoin is nothing more than ones and zeros. It's really a function of all of our stories, our experiences that make Bitcoin what it is today. And today, yeah, Elon Musk is blah, blah, blah. Everyone's loving Bitcoin. But I think a lot of people forget, though, that a couple of years ago, it was a couple of weeks ago, maybe even, it was very unpopular to be a person who, likes Bitcoin. And so I'm trying to put a bit of a spotlight on people, at least through my journey, that have enlightened me with Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, less, but more so Bitcoin. So with that said, I'm really interested in capturing your story, Faisal. I don't know what that looks like exactly, but yeah, let me just pause there.
So I dabble in payments, and I'm
Mm.
not going to bore you with my background, etc. But let me just put it this way: I specialize in cross border. So if money is moved across the border in any shape, way, or form, or rather, value is moved across the border in any way, shape, or value, it could be fiat, could be crypto, could be IOUs, checks, gold coins, art, could be smoke signals, could be pigeons, could be, I don't know, 4 cases of my goat's head for your 6 cases of leather, snake skin. I don't know. That's what I'm interested in. I think, is Bitcoin itself per se going to change remittances? The answer is no. I think invariably we've discovered that Bitcoin is the equivalent of gold, right? And gold is not really used for cross-border transfers. It's more used for balance of payments or building reserves or building wealth and value that stays in one place in a locked up place. The advantage is that the for the first time in our, let's say, from the late 1600 onwards, we've had a monetary system that is not controlled by anyone that is government. It's controlled by the people, and it's controlled by the people by the mere fact that it's dispersed on a individual level where anyone could set up a node or set up a wallet or set up a mining rig, etc., and be on it, and the government could not stop them. And this is many people don't even know that the Federal Reserve is actually the third Federal Reserve of the United States. There were two Federal Reserves prior to that. They were the central banks of the United States at that time, and they closed down. But this is and they were created explicitly to close down all the private money that was circulating at that time. Circa the late 1700s and the early 1800s, there were a lot of private banks, the JP Morgan Chase. These guys came later, but they were banks, the Fifth Philadelphia Bank or the Sixth Delaware Bank or the Ninth Bank in Texas. They had their own money, their own IOUs. And then there was a lot of, okay, we'll accept your Sonny Ray's bank's $100 note, but we won't accept Sonny Ray's Mrs. $100 note from her bank because we don't recognize her bank. So the Federal Reserve came in private partnership with the government, and they said, you know what, this is getting crazy. We're just going to issue $1 note, and et cetera, which is fine. I think the real interesting story begins when the regulators start worrying about this thing, when they lose control, because money has been used now as a more, other than the fact that you can do a lot with money, it's used as an economic warfare tool. It's used as a political warfare tool. It's used as an information warfare tool. It's used to subjugate and control people in many ways, etc. It has many good aspects to it. It has many negative aspects to it as well. But the thing that people got sick and tired is they're working day and night, and whatever wealth they go bring back loses value by mere action of the government or inaction of the government. If the governments were to not settle their debts correctly, if the politicians don't play well, if something happens because of their screw up, my 9 to 5 wealth that I created is reduced. I still have to do 9 to 5 or 9 to 10 or 9 to 11, but my wealth has reduced. And that's just injustice. How would you feel? You go in the morning, you get out of bed at 8, you go to work at 9, you work till 5, you come back at 7, you get paid for those 8 hours. But how about you do the same thing and you only get paid for 4 hours? You'd cry foul. But that's exactly what happens with inflation and the taxation on your money and in many other aspects. And if it's my wealth, shouldn't I have the right to control where I park it and how I park it? The government says no. And that is what Bitcoin challenges, that centralized authority, which then brings us into a conversation. Is that centralized authority that is being challenged here, is that the old model or is that the new model? Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek, in his future, and he wrote amazing works and he was a great visionary and a futurist. He said that in the future, there is no concept of money. There is no such thing as the concept of money. It just doesn't exist.
Okay, so what exists in lieu of it?
Okay, fine. So imagine if the aliens came or something like that, and we say, "Oh, we have dollars." Do you think they would be impressed? Oh, you have dollars. We don't have dollars. I mean, we have advanced alien technology that can vaporize you in a second, but we don't have dollars. So dollars don't matter. Dollars is a concept that is local, or a euro, or pound, or rupee, or the pesa, whatever it is. It's localized to our imagination. It's localized to our enclave known as the Earth. It is localized to our economic system. But when we talk about multiverse systems, or when we talk about other nations or other than the Earth, other planets, etc., come into being, and this may sound really, ooh, well, what is this guy talking about? Hey, I think 20 years ago we couldn't think about going to Mars, right? And now it's just a regular feature where we sit down in our house and we can watch what's going on over there. Hey, is the helicopter flying or not? So I think in a couple of years, when we do have this thing, interplanetary travel or let's say a base outside the Earth, then how do you reckon money? Dollar is not going to be it, right? So the argument has always been bring out the boogeyman, right? Whatever challenges the United States government, whatever challenges the Bank of England, whatever challenges the European Central Bank or the Reserve Bank of India, or whatever it is, whatever bank that is, bring out the boogeyman. Anti-money laundering, counter-terrorist financing, drug cartel, this, that, etc. It's a very small amount. But the fact is, once the boogeyman is out of the bag, cryptocurrencies get a bad rep, a lot of bad rep. And they can do it because of the power of information, which is why these podcasts matter, these words that we write for articles, they all matter. So right now, to answer your question, sorry I went on a little tirade, but it just gives you some sort of perspective. I don't think so. Bitcoin is going to be the currency of choice for remittances. I don't think so. There's going to be a single currency of choice. I think there'll be multiple, but it's going to be the small, nimble values that can move across, get settled instantly, where the blockchain is able to handle thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of transactions per second, and something that is truly decentralized, not controlled per se by any particular government or nation.
Interesting. That's a very interesting perspective. And are you interested at all by lightning? Does that intrigue you, or
No,
are you
no, it
kind of
doesn't.
like
It
it
doesn't.
doesn't?
I think in the end, the concept of a lightning network is still meant to improve the Bitcoin network itself. But I think do, was I? It's like asking me, am I passionate about the Atari, or am I passionate about the IBM 8088, or am I passionate about the Netscape browser? At that time, yes, I was. But there are other improved versions of cryptocurrency that have come out. They have looked at the Cardano project is an amazing project, the Ethereum 2.0, the Polkadot, what's it, Link, Atom, Cosmos. There's so many of them, right? Tezos. And all these projects are looking at something and saying, okay, what's wrong with the fundamental equation right now, right? I mean, it's very early in the physics of the crypto world. And we are coming up with better and better equations, and they're coming up with better and better models. And eventually, is there going to be a grand unification? Well, in money, that hasn't been the case so far. The unification is that it's accepted. So you have a different coordinate system, like in mathematics, you have a different coordinate system and a different coordinate systems. And there's something called boundary conditions that basically connect them. And that's exactly what we're going to have. In plain English speak, it's called the interledger protocol, right? So we'll have different protocols, different ledgers, different blockchains, and those blockchains are going to talk to each other through a protocol. And that's what we're going to have. And it's not going to be the Lightning Network. It will be variations of it. It will be different colors and different tastes. But I don't think so it's going to be the Bitcoin network.
Cool. So I ran to the remittance thing just because of, but I do agree with you that I think that's just, I used to be a financial advisor like a couple lifetimes ago. And we always, whenever we told people about any sort of strategy or whatever, inflation was just taken into the equation as a, as like a after, like it's there, like you're not doing anything about it. Like now you've got to learn how to beat it. But whenever you'd ask questions, why does it exist? Why is it that the value of our money is going down? Nobody could answer those questions. And
There's a book I have. Oh, it's over there. It's Debt, the First 5,000 Years. I think it's somewhere over there. And it talks about it was the first way of actually intelligently putting taxation on people without them doing anything, without them paying.
yeah,
It taxes you.
it's a tax.
You,
It's a
you've
hidden
lost
tax.
it. Yeah. So the only way you can make rather than saying each and every person who holds money has to go to the post office and pay the tax. No one's going to do that. Of course, there are going to be many people who can't walk, excuse, whatever, bedridden, sick, was delivering a baby, was milking the cow, was harvesting the fields, whatever. But if I inflate put inflation in, the money's value goes down. I've basically taken a tax out of it.
And this is not like this is not some foreign historical thing you have to read up on. There are stories of inflation. Wasn't Turkey or something under it, like super hyperinflation?
Well, not Turkey doesn't have. I live in Istanbul. Turkey does not have inflation, but like Venezuela. Venezuela went through hyperinflation.
Wait, what did something happen in Turkey? Am I mistaken?
Yeah, absolutely.
What was it?
The currency lost its value. 20% of its value, 15 to 20% of its value over the year. So the lira is much more cheaper now compared to the dollar. So for $1, you used to get 6 liras. Now you can get 8 liras. So if you get 20% more, hey, everything is just 20% more cheaper for you if you're earning in dollars. But if you're a person living in Turkey, everything outside, going outside, traveling outside, buying anything that is a dollar based became 20% more expensive for you because you're getting paid in lira.
Interesting. And by the way, my previous guest was a lady from Venezuela who actually left Venezuela and moved to Argentina, and she shared her remarkable story. And when she was 12 years old, when Hugo or whatever the
Chavez,
Chavez came into power, and her first comments to her mom was like, "Why is this guy smiling? He doesn't look like a nice man."
Yeah.
And
Very amazing economies. The
mm,
Brazilian economy, which has gone through a very tough cycle, has defaulted on a loan, has defaulted on international bank guarantees, etc. The Argentinian economy, the Venezuelan economy, they're fantastic history cases. I think one thing that we were not ready for is the internet brought out all this fantastic knowledge about access to information. So I could be sitting in Timbuktu and I've had access to the Library of Congress. I could have access to the MIT library, or all the way down in Wellington, New Zealand, I could have access to a library over there, and everything in between, and all the Louvre Museum, the MoMA, the Met, etc. Nothing was away from me. But the one thing that we did not talk about was money. And it was like, let them enjoy the YouTube videos, let them enjoy the music, let them enjoy the trolls, let them enjoy. And who is this? Let them. These are the governments, these are the regulatory entities, etc. And then suddenly, boom, these payment networks propped up for the very first time. PayPal came up, Kiwi came up, Skrill came up, Payoneer came up. Slowly, mobile money came up. So even though we had money, we started paying very little attention to it. Very little, not too much. But after Bitcoin, the educational aspect of how money is made, which was a common knowledge for the last since 1600 and what 47 since 37 when the Bank of England created the thing, is just, it's now not common knowledge amongst, it was common knowledge amongst bankers, but now it's common knowledge amongst citizens. And for the first time, we've questioned it. This, by the way, did not happen during even the Wall Street crisis of 2008. If you think about it, all they kept saying is they're getting bailouts. We did not know what a bailout meant actually.
mm.
Now we do. Now we know that the banks can just create money, can just quantitative easing, as we call them. And the whole system is made to sound complex.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh no, dude, I said I was a financial advisor. This top of the fanciest buildings, the nicest ties and biggest, most complex words you can think of just to say something
How
simple. I
many
mean, it
syllables
was
is that? Four.
bullshit,
No, we need a
bullshit.
6 syllable word for that. Go find a 6 syllable word and then come back to me, you know?
And the previous point you made also, which by the way, when people ask me, why do you like Bitcoin so much? Wow, what's so big? 10 years you've been talking about this thing. I say just the fact that it gets us to question. I'm not saying it's money. The fact that it gets us to question what is money, to me, if it does that for even a person in this world, it's done its job. I totally agree with you there, man. Wow. Okay. So this isn't really the normal arc of most podcasts, because I guess because you're probably you're a podcast yourself, so you know what you're doing. But this has been super fun so far. Okay. So my first question really is around what is your story, which I don't think we got a good grip on. You said it was a bit boring, but I am curious if like I'm curious like if you're well, okay, maybe Bitcoin isn't a singularity event for you, but I think for a lot of my guests
It
it
was. It's
was.
not, yeah,
It
of
was. Okay.
course.
Okay. So, well, your podcast is called. So, I guess why I asked this question around what's your story is more to see what is it that eventually brought you into Bitcoin, right? What was it about? So, it sounds like remittance was definitely one of those threads, maybe
So,
questioning the very foundation of money, perhaps another. But
s-
yeah, yeah,
just like you, I'm an engineer. I'm an
yeah.
electrical engineer.
I'm sorry to hear that.
And uh,
I'm kidding. What
right?
school was tough, man?
Yeah, I know. I tell you seriously. So I did my bachelor's and master's in electrical in something called electromagnetics and quantum electrodynamics, and I was like,
Sweet. That was my favorite class. Electromagnetics.
uh,
Yeah.
and for 16 years, I ran an IT firm that basically worked with financial institutions and the governments, etc., and data centers and all that stuff. I was sick and tired of getting a call at 3 a.m. in the morning. The server is down, the network is down, we're getting a DDoS attack, the network route is gone. I was turning 40 at that time. That was about 10 years ago. I'm 50 now. And I said, you know what? This has got to be a better life. So I quit, just quit. I said, okay, just not going back. And I took a sabbatical for a year and a half. I told my wife, I had a few savings, a little savings, not too much, but I said, hey, can you manage? She said, we'll manage. Just go. So I studied day and night about payment systems, which were very close to me. In doing so, I accidentally discovered Quora. So I was answering on questions, learning questions, and whatever I learned, I shared on Quora rather than keeping it with me. That made me more prominent. And I said, hey, you know what? Suddenly you notice the more you share, the more people communicate back to you. I said, okay, so this is a cause and effect. You put content out, more people connect to you. I started putting more content out, more people started connecting me. So it was all accidental. But anyways, in the end, basically learned the whole trait of payment systems. The one thing I did not understand, and I could not understand, and I had friends who were just short of being the presidents of the banks, and I asked them, okay, tell me one thing. Where is this dollar that I have, the $500, the $100 note? Where is it? Who my $100 balance? Where is it? Physically, where is it? He said, well, physically it doesn't exist. It's digitally. I said, where is it? He said, we have a copy. I said, what do you mean you have a copy? He says, all dollars exist in New York only. Oh, what? What? He says, yeah. Dollars, other than the cash part, which is a very little thing. Let's say you have $10,000 in your Canadian account. It's not actually in your account. It's actually under an account of the Federal Reserve Bank that is providing correspondent banking to the Canadian bank. The double accounting system ensures that the Canadian bank has a thing, but the master record, the record of truth, is actually in New York. So your dollars are in New York. This is how sanctions happen. When sanctions happen, they're not going to go to Iran or they're going to go to Iraq and take the dollars out and close the ledgers. No, the books are in New York. They just close it. If you're Bangladesh and you're issuing currencies to Sri Lanka, do you think Sri Lanka has the ability to produce or make Bangladeshi takas? No, Bangladesh has. Bangladesh's ledger says, Sri Lanka, I hereby bequeath you 100 million takas. Okay. And whatever you do, I'm going to keep a track and a record of how it, and we're going to correspond and keep it correlated with this double accounting. So my accounting has to match your accounting. And if your accounting mismatches, then you have to explain why, because my accounting is the method of truth.
Sorry, but didn't the central bank of Bangladesh get hacked or something like 5 years ago?
They did.
Continue.
And again, the dollars were out of the New York because the correspondent banks send them out. Touche on that, by the way. The fact remains that once I asked people, okay, how do we settle? He says, we don't settle. I said, are we flying a plane that's bringing $1 billion out? Pakistan gets a loan of $1 billion. Philippines gets a loan of $1 billion. India gets a loan of $1 billion. Did a plane go out with $3 billion? He said, no. We went to the register India plus 1 billion. We went to the register Philippines plus 1 billion. We went to the register Pakistan plus 1 billion. Okay, then what? Now that the Federal Reserve Register says 1 billion, 1 billion, 1 billion has been issued. He says, then what? He says, we did a credit. We need to debit somewhere. So we debit the government's reserves, right? The federal government's reserve. Because the credit was done on the Federal Reserves, the Treasury was the debit that created the money, right? Now, so that's a debit and a credit. Now, what will we do? We will give it to Deutsche Bank for India. So Deutsche Bank is India's bank for the $1 billion. So we will do a debit with the Federal Reserve New York and credit to Deutsche Bank over there. Then Deutsche Bank will do a debit on themselves and credit ICI Bank or RBI in India and that's how the double accounting system works. So RBI will give money to ICI will give it to whatever, blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, the total in India has to add up to what Deutsche Bank in New York has. And this is why if you make a payment from one bank that is not part of the chain to another bank, it has to go all the way back to New York and then go back because the register happens to be in New York. And that is how the accounting system works for everyone. The money doesn't move, the accounts move, the ledger moves. And I did not understand that for the longest of time. Funny, you should also ask, even though I explained it in a very simple way, people still don't understand it. So what I decided to do is I decided to make a video of it. What do you call it? A stop motion video. So basically, I bought a couple of empty wallets and I named each wallet a country and a little register, and I showed it on my blackboard. It's stuck with magnets, and I did a tick, tick, tick. And okay, this is how the money gets here. This is how the money gets here. And you can pause it. You can look at it. You can understand it. So hopefully in a few days' time, it'll be up. The very basic question: how does money move? Where is the money? Where are the dollars? Who has it? It's like Waldo, right? You're trying to find Waldo. You think Waldo is in your own country. It's not there. He's not there. It's just a mere reflection. Waldo is always in New York.
Yeah. Okay. So fascinating. And then, so I guess since the sabbatical, you've been mostly now on
So yeah,
Quora and casting, and you're on
no,
what?
I did my Quora. I did my Quora. I run
Hmm.
my own. We have a company. We've been since 2008. I had a girl with me. She used to work for me. She still does. And we started working remotely. So we've been in a work from home company since 2008. So 2020 was the beautiful year because we felt vindicated that working from home was not a loser's job. So we're a company of 16 people. We work
Hmm.
from home. We do cross border. We specialize in cross border and complex markets, and we provide consultancy, etc. in that arena. And it wasn't until 2013, late 2013, that I discovered Bitcoin, or not late, well, April 2013 when I discovered Bitcoin. And I was like, wow. First, I read the paper, went over my head.
Hmm.
I read it again. And there were raves and raves everywhere. It's like this drug everyone is talking about, and you're eating it, and nothing is happening to you. You say everyone else is enjoying it, but I'm not getting that high.
Yeah.
So I read it again. And then, sunny, one day it hit me. What was created? And the eureka moment, the epiphany happened.
Which was?
Oh my God, we're going to get private money, and there's nothing anyone else can do about it. They've solved a very old problem, and they solved it. And if this thing takes off, it's, you know what, if it takes off, there's just no controlling it. No controlling it.
And what is it's hard to say, I guess. I was gonna say, well, what is the point of no return? Maybe, yeah. So yes, I agree. I've been similarly touched by this virus, this mind virus, this bug called the Bitcoin bug. And you once it gets in you, though, it's hard to stop thinking about it, right?
But you
Because
were lucky to
mm,
work in that tall building. But there was a method to that madness. There was a prerequisite, there were hurdles. It was a country club for which you had to have membership for to work in the financial services sector. If you were a coder and you were in your jeans in your basement eating a donut, there's no way you could partake in that movement. Today you can, doesn't matter where you are. Anyone can. I've seen people sending money. I open wallets for people and give them 15, $20, etc. And they feel fascinated. I say, I just gave you $20. I saw Roger Ver do this in Tokyo on the TV when he put the QR code, and it was the private key, and anyone who scanned that private key could suddenly get the 500 euros that he was putting out on. So I went to conferences worldwide, and when I would put up a private key and I would not say anything, I would just stay still for 60 seconds. In all the conferences, only one person ever figured it out. And they immediately got their phone out. They had the ability to scan the private key. They scanned it and they won $100, because I would tell them what I just put out. After I would take the screen down, I would tell them that was a private key for Bitcoin for $100. If you had known about it, that is how easy you would have transferred the money. There's nothing I could have done about it. So then I did all these Easter hunts on Facebook, putting all these QR codes in Twitter and here and there, and people would take a $5, $6, $10, $20. So you got to create that movement. And once people understand how easy it is, it's not about you and me will get it. We will get it. We'll be super excited. We can think about what we can do with the Lego blocks. But giving a Lego to a 5-year-old, they don't know what they can build from it. They don't know that there's mechanical Lego. They don't know they can build the Starship Millennium Falcon with it. They just know that, oh my God, this is amazing. Blocks that can. So the fascination is amazing. And I think it's up to ambassadors like yourself and everyone else that is meant to perpetuate and propagate this excitement amongst the regular people. We will get it, but it's they who we need to convince.
yeah, yep. Yeah, man. And I think that's what I'm trying to do now more and more every day, putting out a vlog. This has been fun. It's been a fun journey, just talking to people and going deeper than just the surface of what it is, and just to understand where people are coming from. And but yeah, man, I agree with you though. That gave me some heebie-jeebies. We'll have private money, and for the first time. But
No, no, no.
now,
We are getting private money back again.
oh, so when gold was the last one? What was the last
No,
private money? Oh, during the, oh, you
we
mean the
had,
banks with
yeah, yeah, the
historically?
IOUs. Yeah,
Got it.
everyone had their everyone had their private money. Ranches had their private money. Countries had their private money. In Rajasthan, in India, they had their private money. Everyone had private money.
But the problem you talked about, right, as well, doesn't that then start to reemerge the fact that the missus, she doesn't have the same, she's not going in with Bitcoin, she's going
So
in with
at that point in
Litecoin.
time, the issue was, so that's why cryptography is a very important element. It's
Mm,
extremely crucial because
mm.
the cryptographic element ensures that this is a non-fungible token or a coin, etc., that there is no duplicate of it, that this is the authentic, this is the real deal, etc. Prior to that, you didn't. So what today we are calling exchanges or pools of people who are liquidity providers, that's exactly the service that was provided in towns way back then. Blacksmiths used to do it. Blacksmiths were the people who made the safes as well, right? And they were also the people who kept the gold with them, the gold coins, because they were the best people to make the safes. And then they started going into the lending business. And so the history repeats itself. We just have to zoom out and see it. So there were liquidity providers, there were people in the pool, there were people who were bringing the money. They say, hey, listen, I have excess money. There were exchanges, there were houses that meant to exchange it. The first blockchain or decentralized ledger existed in the late 1700s. People can't even name it. It was called merchant banking. So when you had merchants and you had merchants who were like the house of JP Morgan Chase or John Pierpont Morgan, these guys were all over the place. They were the merchants banks in Venice, in London, and in Rome. So how do you think they balanced their books? There was no internet. It was
Mm.
decentralized. So they had a coding mechanism. They had an understanding when a ship came in, the merchants, they would bring the thing up, they would write the ledgers. It would take 6, 7 months before the ship went elsewhere. And the ledgers would then be rolled up and collapsed, if you will, into that one long hash key. And then they would take it out to Milan and then decrypt it. And then Milan would take it to London and decrypt it. Those things, that's what merchant banking was. How do you think about it? How did merchant banking exist? If you went from here to India and you
Mm.
presented a note and this is 500 pounds given by Bank of Sunny Ray, how would the Bank of Faisal encash it? How do I know Sunny Ray still has this balance?
Gold would be my
No,
first
because
guess or
the
something. I
merchant
don't know.
banking was not so they
You're
had a
saying
way
there was a
of
ledger essentially,
there
like
was
they had
yes
a decentralized ledger of
those
sorts.
ledgers. By
Interesting.
the way, if you go to the Louvre Museum, if you go to the
Hmm.
museum in Rome, if you go
Cool.
to
What do they
there
look like? There's just like they're just numbers.
oh yeah, I mean the oldest for ledger is a cuneiform ledger from the Byzantine era, I think so. The Iraq era, 5000 BC, clear tablet. It's actually a ledger. So we've been there for a long time.
Yeah, fascinating stuff, man.
And thank the historians who've gone out, read about this, and wrote
Mm.
this in the books for us to read.
What's the book I'm reading? He's from Israel. It's something 21st century. I think he wrote a book called Sapiens. I'm talking about. Yeah, that guy. I'm reading his book right now. Actually, I'm in the middle of that one. It's
Yeah,
fascinating.
so it's over here. Yeah. He's written 3 books now. So Sapiens, Homo Sapien, and then one other one, the 20 whatever three what was it 23 things that will change the world or what
I don't
was it?
think this is my first book of his that I
The
Sapiens.
Neanderthal man and how we killed them.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's a fascinating one. Yeah, man. So, Faisal, what else in terms of your story though? It sounds like you've had this like almost academic, you Quora, you've done consulting, you're definitely one of the people that gets me thinking about Bitcoin in a way that I haven't, which is not normal.
well
I
I'd
like
like
that.
to imagine, Sunny, that I'm like you.
Hmm.
I'm a teacher. I believe I'm a teacher, and that means sharing knowledge without thinking what's in it for me before I share this knowledge. This is why you do the podcast. You do the podcast, you take your time out, you push it out so that others can hear it. And you're not charging for the podcast. I hope you're not. And so just let the record show that you did a nod,
I don't know,
right?
it's free on YouTube.
So the whole thing then resides on the fact that if you share knowledge, others will benefit. And I take great pride in this thing. There's a person who's a sweeper. There's a person who's a carpenter. There's a person who probably cleans windows for a living. You can say, why don't you do better? Okay, let's say he does better. Then who will clean the windows? They love what they're doing. Some people are meant to be where they're meant to be. We can't change everyone and say, hey, how come you're not making a $1 billion unicorn? If everyone was building a $1 billion unicorn, the unicorn wouldn't have any value in it.
Mm.
So 99.999%, three nines percent of the people are going to do normal everyday jobs. And you
Mm.
have to be very content with that. And I'm
Mm.
very content with what I do. Yes, we get perspectives. We give different perspectives. They are not mine perspectives. These are perspective of the people who willingly have shared the books with me, and I read them. Such talks with me, great conversations, great small YouTube videos, documentaries that I take a lot of interest in. And from that, this is the amalgamated, the condensed version you're seeing in this podcast.
So what's your thought of where are we today, Faisal, in terms of this Bitcoin evolution, the story of Bitcoin?
I think two things are going to happen. I think they're really going to go after it and position it as such that an unregulated cryptocurrency of any nature will not be permitted in this world of ours. Nothing that is unregulated, meaning we need to know who you are, where you are, with that much certainty as you're putting into this transaction in the blockchain.
Mm.
Very important. With that much certainty that you are putting the transaction into the blockchain, this is the amount of certainty we require to know that you are Sunny Ray.
Mm.
And then we want to know, Mr. Sunny Ray, every transaction you do. Why? Because I want to tax you. I want to know how your money flows. And if you benefited and skirt the monetary system that I have built,
Mm.
and it hurts me, and they will not let go of this thing. So that's one. The second thing is, I think, despite the fact that we have said that they will not exist, I think privacy coins and privacy exchange, decentralized exchanges, will continue to flourish. The problem is it's going to be very problematic. There's going to be a parallel system. If life was so fair, we wouldn't have a parallel economy. We wouldn't have a gray economy. We wouldn't have a black economy. But yet we do. And they're in the billions and the trillions. But they see the danger. And when I say they, the regulators, the governments, right? They see the danger of saying, no, this is the kind of control we don't want you to have. So it's almost like lobotomizing our brain and saying, no, let's just take that thought out of you and free money. No, we don't want you to do that. Bad boy.
How does that go down? You might have heard of some of our stories in India where the central bank tried to shut down banking for our services. We challenged them in the Supreme Court. Judges ruled in our favor. More recently in India, the government's talking about potentially banning it. Now the momentum's in the other direction. But yeah, around the world, when you say they too, right? I
So
mean, I get what
India
you're
bans
saying.
it. India
Mm.
bans it. What do you think Pakistan's going to do? What do you think Nepal's going to do? What do you think Sri Lanka is going to do? What do you think
Mm.
Bhutan is going to do? They're
Follow
going to
suit.
look at India and say, hey, if one of the G5, G7 countries can ban it, who are we? Okay, maybe Bhutan won't do it,
So
but the
there'll be
rest would.
you're saying there'll be a domino effect. And by the way, India's not planning to ban it right now as of the
Yeah, yeah,
signals
yeah.
we've
But,
gotten.
but but
But
you get my
you're
point,
saying
right?
if they do, yeah, I think that's why I think it's so important that people.
Tomorrow, I call it very affectionately in a very affectionate way. What? So I think there's a lot of bullying going on. I think there's a lot of political issues associated with it. I'm not going to get into that talk because I'm not qualified for it, but I feel it's something that is. Imagine if Iran has access to free Bitcoin economies or a network that they make with cryptocurrency, with China, with India, with Russia, with other countries that challenges the Western bloc. Imagine if the African countries decide to do this. Imagine if the Caribbean, hold, stop, the Caribbean are actually doing it. They've now made their own sand dollar. They've made their own blockchain. They've made their own thing. They've made their own settlement system. So the first digital cryptocurrency that a central bank issued is not China. It's actually from Barbados, Bahamas. It was created, but it's called the sand dollar.
Hmm.
And it was up. It's up and running. So I
So,
think
but if this is true, and by the way, this narrative you're talking about, this is something that keeps me awake at night for the last 10 years, right? Like this story. But then Elon Musk, hey, put it on the Tesla is what supposedly the successful company. He's the most successful person on planet Earth. Seems to be signaling that maybe there's something to Bitcoin. But I guess
I
my
mean,
question is,
maximalists love that story. But if you're
yeah,
not a maximalist,
it
then the
doesn't fit your
question
narrative.
is, then what's the popular opinion, right? The popular opinion is that there's some meat in this thing called crypto. That's
Mhm.
why banks are going after it. That's why hedge funds and pension funds are going to go into it. That's why. And the first thing they're not going to look at is, hey, can we invest into Polygon or Matic, or can we invest into Philcoin? They're going to say, can we invest in Bitcoin? The first stepping stone on the ladder is always Bitcoin. It's the lowest rung that they put their foot on. So they will always, so where anyone steps into the arena, it's like taking that Ashirwad. If you touch it and you say, it's always Bitcoin. You're always rubbing Bitcoin's nose. And so Bitcoin gets up, and up by de facto. But but you look at these institutions, they're the ones who play ball. They said, listen, no, I'm not, we're not here to discuss the rudimentary concepts or educational concept of how this is going to be free money and this money. We're going to play within the realm that we are regulated in. We're going to play within the elbow room that we are in. That's what PayPal did and everything else. They said, okay, you can buy it, but you can't do anything else with it right now, for now. Once we figure it out, then we'll be able to do the next step and the next step. It's not like they opened the box and everything was all encompassing. No, they said, no, right now you'll just be able to buy it, and that's about it. And that created a huge frenzy. So they're working with the regulators, slow and slow. I fear we will lose the fight because the changes will be so slow that many of the baton carriers will pass away, and the government has lots of time because the system always has time. And the advocates will either be arrested, will die down of natural causes, or whatever, or move on, etc., give up, throw in the towel. But the system will win in the end. That they will bring everyone into this thing. Yes, there will be an underground movement, etc., that will still maintain the Monero values, the code, etc. But otherwise, no.
And then the pink elephant, the blue elephant in the room, Coinbase. You heard their news? They're going public supposedly. like these kind of things must matter, no, to these
Yeah, but they
controllers of
will
the world.
do it. But they are saying, we will dance with the bear. We will not fight with the
Mm.
bear. We will dance with the bear. We'll go public. We will go within the regulatory elbow room that has been provided to us, and we will dance in that regulated 1 square meter box. We will not do anything crazy.
Mm.
We will not fight the bear. They will dance with the bear.
Yeah. Yeah. It's dangerous to fight the bear. It'll
Yeah,
just
yeah,
eat your
yeah.
head off. Okay. This has been definitely not my regular podcast. Vodcast. So what else, Faisal? I usually talk about like your stories. This has been more just talking about Bitcoin stuff, which I definitely
Well,
love.
I
Which
want to
is
talk about that because
that's all I care
that's the
about. I'm
yeah.
usually trying to
I
get the
mean,
story to Bitcoin, but you're like all
building
over
on
that.
Bitcoin, right? So
So what other tidbits of tips do you have? Okay, so like the bear's coming, but it's a bull, and we seem to be in the middle of
well,
a bull run.
okay, fine. The bull run will be over. Let's say, I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
know,
yeah.
sometime this fall, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
80% correction. Oh my God.
whatever.
Yeah.
But the question remains:
Mm.
if you have, there's this amazing ramen noodles, and everyone is talking about it, and you've never ever had even a small bowl of it. Taste it. Get a wallet. Get it. Send someone a buck. Receive a buck. Just play with it. It's not that I don't want you to do it. I want you to do it because maybe you might be the one that gets that crazy idea that builds the next thing. Maybe someone you send the buck to gets the crazy idea and gets introduced to a field that they will excel in and probably write 50 PhD papers in. You could be the catalyst for change amongst for others. So if
Mm.
you stop that being that catalyst, like you are taking this podcast, you're doing it and you're talking to others, but if you stop the reaction, the domino effect stops or slows down, and you don't want that to slow down. And it should be, forget about how much the bowl of ramen will cost today versus tomorrow, ramen noodles, but think about the recipe, think about the taste, think about what changes it does, think about solving hunger with it, think about if we had the ability to send money They say quite a few problems have been left unsolved. The penultimate problem is transportation of humans digitally, right? They will eventually solve it. Wired did a really good paper in circa 1990s on why the physics of Star Trek, on the beam me up, Scotty, and what it actually means to beam up a billion atoms in the right configuration, etc., and the computing power required for it. But the thing that we haven't solved, right? We took analog music, we gave it ones and zeros. We have digital music. There are people who are working on. We took 4 basic printer inks, and now we can make a color printer. There are people working with 8, 10, 12, 16, and 18, or sometimes even 24 different types of smells, and they will be able to create any smell. So if you go to a website, click on a thing, the correct formula would come in, and you'd be able to, and your printer would get the smell out, and you'll be able to smell that perfume or cologne that you were looking at. So we are getting there. We are doing fantastic work. And this monetary work, the reason why most of your adult life you will get out of bed, work, go to bed, get out of bed, work, go to bed, till almost the day you die. You work for something called money. And I think it's fair that we need to understand it a little more better in this generation and the coming generation.
And you said the first time we have private money, but okay, there's been many attempts at that. You could say, what for you makes Bitcoin special? What is it that the decentralized nature of it? But what is it, Faisal? I'm curious.
What it really makes me special is it completes the picture. I, as a person, am able to contribute or compete, if you will, in a society in Toronto. I could be sitting in Istanbul and I could be competing in Toronto for a business. I could make logos for you. I could write a report for Sunny Ray and his company. Sunny Ray Incorporated, I would say he wants to do some logo designing, I'd do that. He wants some presentation, I would do that. We have the means to send him the report. He has the means to accept it, corrections, voice notes, back and forth, WhatsApp, video calls, etc., so forth, Zoom. I need to pay you, or you need to pay me. Suddenly, boom. Or PayPal. PayPal's banned in Turkey. Oh, Swift. We can't Swift $32 because it'll cost you $50 to Swift me $32. But then I have
Yeah.
Bitcoin. Boom. You, me, you, me. There was no someone else in between. It was you, me. Always you, me. The you, me I like. The me, you I like. I don't like money going somewhere else and then coming back. Right now, if someone were to ask you to send me an email, you go there, say, hold on, we want to send an email. Faisal? Yeah, hold on. First, Google, hi, yes. Gmail. Can I send an email to Faisal? Let's say, hold on 1 second, let me check. Turkey. Yes, you can. Okay, cool. Can I do it? No, but there's a small charge. Okay, fine, cool. Okay, I want to send him, hey, Faisal, are you coming for the podcast? He says, no, sorry, you can't do that. Why? We have a minimum. For a cross-border transaction, there's a minimum, 1,000 words. But that's ridiculous. I only want to say, hey, Faisal, are you coming for the... No, but there's a minimum. Okay, so you write a bloody minimum letter for me, 1,000-word letter. You send it. Did you get it? I said, no. Did you get it? No. Where is it? I don't know. We call Gmail. They said, we don't know. Did you get it? No. And then one fine day I say, hey, you got a letter. Oh, cool. Can you give it to me? Oh, no, we actually can't give it to you. You need to come back to the office and take some ID documents from you. Okay, cool. And I open the letter and it says, dear Faisal, I want to tell you about, what? It doesn't make sense. Oh, yeah, there was a tax in the correspondent banking and we randomly took 5% of your words out. You would never tolerate such a system. But that's exactly how money works today. So when I do you, me without this thing, that's what fascinates me. You sent me this, I got that.
Why don't more people think about this or talk about this? Doesn't this seem like oxygen or something like food? Like it
Well,
should
we are
just be.
talking now. So one battle at a time, one person at a time, one bridge at a time, one soldier at a time, one convert at a time. So yeah, that's what we do. You have just said, Sunny, without knowing exactly what I was trying to say. Why don't we talk about you? That's exactly what a torch bearer would say. That's exactly what a propagationist would say. And that's exactly why you are important in this entire chain, and everyone else is important. You got to keep this thing going. And one of the ways we can get them to talk about it is for them to experience it.
Mm,
Download a wallet, play with it. Bitcoin just happens to be one of the primary coins you can play with. People have this mistaken understanding that you have to buy a Bitcoin in order to play. No,
mm,
you can actually take that gold bar, you can take a little knife and just shave it slightly. And a little speck of gold dust that falls down, you break that into 20 pieces and you take one of dust, one of the 20 pieces of dust. That's how Bitcoin works. You can work with that. You don't need the entire gold bar. You can buy that and you can play with that. And there's so many things we can build on top of it with the blockchain, etc. It's not easy, but we'll get there.
yeah. Yeah, totally. I feel re-inspired, reinvigorated. I'm not gonna lie. I'm inching on to my 100th episode, and a part of me was getting a little, I don't know, not burned out, but questioning. You don't have really an exit plan here, Sonny. There's no
No, but
finance. I'm not getting
do you
paid,
need
but I fucking
one?
love it.
But
That's the
do
only
you
thing.
need one, Sonny? A teacher never has an exit plan.
Mm,
A teacher teaches, and day in day out, same thing.
mm,
Do you think they get burnt out? Do you think they're saying, "Oh, you know what? I'm teaching the same damn science lecture for 3 years"? No.
mhm. I'm just using the gut.
I
It
know,
tells me
I know,
because I asked
I
myself,
know.
do I
You
enjoy
will
it?
have
And
good
in the
days.
process, like even today, I'm not gonna lie, dude, I was kind of dragging my heels. I had a dentist
It's a
appointment in the
Monday.
morning
You're
at
forgiven. It's a
work, this,
Monday. It's a
that.
Monday.
I'm
You're
just like,
forgiven.
what the hell? Like, really? Now I'm gonna sit for an hour. This guy, I've never even met this guy. And then I come on this call. I'm like, man, this is why I do this. I love
No,
it.
and I'm super, super thankful for you for reaching out. And I'm glad you reminded me. I'd forgotten about it. And then good to have this conversation
Yeah,
today.
dude, listen, I just want to be mindful. Realized just that we're at the end of our hour. I normally make these 90 minutes. We should definitely do a part two if you're down. I feel like we could talk for a while on
Always,
philosophy and
always,
history and oh
always,
my God,
always.
anthropology of Bitcoin. And
You have to understand Bitcoin to me, money is like a concert. Right now, we're just talking general concept of music. Now, do you want to pick up your Bee Gees album, and I want to pick up my ABBA album, and someone wants to pick up their Verdi, or someone wants to pick up their opera, whatever. Those are the flavors we can go into and then talk.
when now's the time, like I said, I was a bit, I interviewed, sorry, a Cornell professor, the guy, sorry, the gentleman behind Avalanche, Emin the other day. And it was like, it's not Bitcoin. It's a little bit off Bitcoin, but just the type of people and the just that I meet every day because it's Bitcoin scene, it just blows my mind. And yeah, I agree with you, man. You just got to keep giving and not, caring about the output. And anytime you do, it always fails. But it is human nature, at least when you're talking to the wifey. It's like you spend how many hours? Now you're going to be editing for how many this, that. But
You could also tell
I'm
her,
like,
would you rather me
be
wasting my
miserable.
time, or let's say playing a video game and then not paying attention and not doing any? Okay, fine, it was entertainment for me,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but did I do anything productive at night? Yeah, I beat some guy in, I don't know, Saskatchewan, Canada,
Mm.
22-1 in some firestorm game, what have you. But that's it. I won't even remember his name tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it feels like recently I've been referring to my podcasts as like works of art. It's what, dude, you're just turning a video camera on, talking to someone and uploading it to YouTube. Just knowing that others will watch it. There's obviously
Well, so it's like the Goldilocks conditions. It's a concept, you can read about it in physics and so forth. It's how very complex things have to be just right for the next stage, and they have to be just right for the next stage, and so forth. And then planets form, and then stars form, and then galaxies form, and then oceans form. And they're like hundreds and thousands of things have to be just right and click, just right and click. So this is what these are Goldilocks conversations. Some of us will click, some of us will be too hot, too cold, too hard, too soft, too tall, too short. But some conversations will click, and when they click, some magic happens
Mm,
elsewhere. So that's how
yeah.
I view it.
My first question was your story. I still feel like I've got 5% in. You're good at we need to do some more on that one. But I loved everything we talked about because that's getting to the heart of
I
what I
think
really touched.
I really don't remember what Andreas Anatopoulos came from, but I
Mm,
remember his work today. I don't know what Sonny's
mm,
background was or where he grew up, but I want to talk to you about the subject that I love. And I think
mm.
that's what we really Elon Musk, yes, a person like him, we would love to know where he came from and what his days, how does he think, or does he even go to the toilet? Does he
How do you
work? Does he
structure your podcast? I'm just curious. Sorry, because I have these kind of 3 questions that I lead with, and I try and stay within those bounds. But I feel like comfortable now. I don't feel like I need the training wheels. I'm just curious. When you do your interviews with the guests, are you more free flow, just like wherever it goes? Do you usually have a bunch of research and
No.
50
So
questions lined
we
up, and you sent in advance and get them to sign a proper document and blah 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 this and that? Or we're just curious where you.
it's it's extemporary in many ways. We have a conversation. Larry King once said, and he was the greatest interviewer of all time, one can argue.
Mm,
He said, I bring a guest onto my show to have a conversation with them. I do not bring the guest over to my show to have a confrontation with them. The minute I have a confrontation with them, they'll put a brick wall between themselves and me, and the conversation's over. I bring guests to have a conversation. But more importantly, I say, okay, I can't possibly learn everything in life and be good at it. So here's this guy called Ray, and Mr. Ray has set up an exchange in India and whatnot. So let him educate me, and through me we'll educate a lot more. So let him talk. So I want to understand, and then I want to ask these questions. Okay, explain it to me like I'm 5 years old. Explain it to me like I'm 10 years old. Why do you do this? Why do you do that? What was your understanding? What was the story behind it? And once I hear that's, I want you to tell your story, not your story.
mm,
I don't want to know if you went to, Beaver, Ohio, or whatever it is, etc., or Valley, Nebraska, and you did fishing for 16 years. That really doesn't count. But I want to know how you're contributing. What are you doing today? What is it the company you're running? How can people get in touch with you? What are you
mm.
trying to change? And what is the problem you are trying to solve? We're all trying to solve a problem, right?
I like that. I like that. Yeah. What do you do versus
Well, I
what
mean,
problem are you solving? I like
I
that.
asked, I said, I
Yeah.
asked people, I said, can you tell me one thing that we all do with Google search?
Mm,
We search. I said, yeah, but that's obvious. What are you doing? I said, what? I said, we all ask a question. Every search that you put into Google is a question. Every search you put into Google is a question. Sunny Ray, that's what you're asking. Sunny Ray, do you know me? Everything you put in Google is a question, and Google gives you the answer. So,
so continue. I thought you were, yeah.
so why not? Why not get the answers, right? Why not get the answers out of
Mm,
from people? Say, okay, what are you trying to do? So everyone is trying to solve a problem.
mm,
Everyone. What is the problem we're trying to solve here? We're trying to solve the problem of educating more people.
yeah.
Simple.
Mm-hmm. Cool, man. We got to do another one, dude. It's whenever you're free. Hey, but my kind of trailer question, my last question I do like to ask is, and I feel like this whole interview has answered that question, which is, what is one thing that you believe to be true that most others in Bitcoin would, disagree with you on? Is there one thought you can maybe leave us with? I feel like you've got a lot of contrarian beliefs, but is there one if we had to distill it down?
For when we say Bitcoin, we're talking about Bitcoin, correct?
Bitcoin, yeah. Mm-hmm.
It will never be used for cross-border payments and
I like that. You
settlements.
started with that. We'll finish with that. I like that, man. I like that. That's
Uh,
that because I think that's a bit of people get
that
triggered by
that
that one.
that that use case is
Long.
gone, long over. It's not there anymore.
Hmm,
I don't think so. We will be doing anything in that arena. I think there are
interesting.
other more better crypto out there.
That will solve that.
Yep.
Got it. Cool. Okay, Faisal. And then where do people find out more about your podcast and you
So
and Cora
everything
and
very
all that?
simple. It's
Mm-hmm.
my name, Faisal, Faisal, last
Mm-hmm.
name Khan, Khan .xyz or Z.
Beautiful.
XYZ.
Beautiful.
FaisalKhan.xyz. All my links, everything is up there. So
Lovely,
very simple.
lovely. This definitely put a big smile on my face, man. So I needed a bit of a picker upper. I mean, with a name like
No,
Sunny
no,
Ray, I rarely do. I'll admit, but today was one of those days.
no, sir. It was great, great talking to you. We'll definitely love to have you on my podcast and pick your brains on specifically the journey of starting the Bitcoin movement in India, the pitfalls, the realization that you're out of business one day, and that part in between, when you're out of business and you go back into the business. That's the part I'm interested in talking about.
Yeah, man, I'm game. In fact, Faisal, to be frank with you, the one of the kind of, I guess, on a selfish note, one of the reasons I started doing this podcast was because I selfishly felt like last
There's
year,
no
2 weeks.
selfish. There's no selfishness. It's just educating. You're actually not being selfish. You're being generous.
The thing is that so a year ago when Harish and these guys were in the courtroom and the judges sided with us and they came out of the courtroom, sun beating on his face, tears rolling down his eyes. Imagine like the forces we're talking about, like it's literally what Unukmai went up against and saw a minor victory. We might get squashed in the arc of history or whatever, but for the time being, there was some justice that was served in India. And COVID hit, I think, a week or two after that announcement. I felt like nobody even cares that this happened. This is a big deal. And I'm not, again, super
The
religious or
unsung
anything.
heroes.
That's the name of the blog, The Unsung Heroes. And so really, it was me going, okay, there's this thing called karma. You give what you want type of deal. Okay, so instead of me focusing on me telling my story, I'll just go tell other people's stories. And I've got lost in that journey, and it's been
So
fascinating.
I would love to know that
but
part, because
but when
that
people
that,
ask
that
me, I'm just like, oh wait, this is why I actually been doing this too, is to get the story about Harish and the story of courage
yeah.
and all of it. But yeah, I would love to, man, anytime.
Done, sir. Done, sir. You
Cool.
take care. You have a good one, and thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
All right, sayonara, buddy. We'll talk soon. Cheers.